Hello, my name is Ramon Bassett. I'm the host of Cyber Connect along with our producer, Brennan Lambrecht. Brennan, the last episode, we continued our introduction to current technologies experts with our IT solution engineer, Mark Rhodes. He talked about the differences between the fixed fee model and a retainer hour model for support. This week, or this episode, we're going to talk about the video surveillance.
Yeah, there's so many video cameras on the market, anywhere from the Best Buy version to a commercial grade option. The key that makes the difference in having the right system is having an expert design that solution. So our guest today, Ramon, is Steve Boonstra. He's the video solutions architect with Current Technologies. He designs custom systems for our clients and is the project manager for said installations.
Hi, Steve.
How's it
Welcome
going?
to Cyber Connect, and thank you for joining me.
Thanks
now, we
for
do
having me.
call you Boone,
Yes,
because
please
we
do.
have multiple Steves on staff.
That's
so,
correct.
I may, for our listeners, call you Boone or Steve. So,
No problem.
to start, why don't you share with our listeners a little bit of a background for yourself and how you started with Current Technologies and what you do now?
Sure, yeah. So I started at Current Technologies about 8 years ago. My previous job was also in the security industry. So I'm at right about 15 years of experience in the security industry and IT industry. I started out as a technician, boots on the ground, pulling cable, installing cameras for Current Technologies, and then just worked my way up slowly, and here I am as a solutions architect to design the projects.
Well, that's always another reason why I appreciate Current Technologies is because people start with the ground floor.
Right.
They do the job before the title, and that gives credibility to our clients and prospective clients. So
Yep.
that's why I thought you'd be a perfect guest, because you have been in the field.
Right.
And you know how to design a solution and how to overcome any blind spots,
Right.
literally and figuratively.
Yep.
So here's some questions that I think would benefit our commercial clients. Would be, what are the pros and cons between a cloud-based solution and an on-prem or on-premises video camera solution?
Sure. Well, let's start with the on-site solution. What is an on-site solution? That is where you have a physical server installed in a data room within your organization, whether it be in your main data frame or another building, but either way, it's an on-prem device versus a cloud, which has no on-prem server sitting in your closet. Everything is uploaded into the cloud. So that's the main difference between on-site and cloud for VMS. The pros. So the pros for VMS, on-site VMS, there's not too many, truthfully. Everything is slowly moving to the cloud as we're getting further and further into the industry and with more technology. The pros to an on-site VMS is, I guess you could touch everything. So you know that the server is housed in your MDF. If internet goes down, you could still access your server. I guess that would be a pro of an on-site VMS. I'll touch on that a little bit more for the cloud on how that's not necessarily a con, but, and then fixed costs, I guess the other pro is you can kind of, it might be a little easier to budget because you have a fixed cost, you know exactly what the server is going to cost. But that's about it for the pros of on-site. There are certain situations where an on-site does make more sense than a cloud system. For instance, maybe a police department, let's say, and you have interview rooms and things of that nature. For security purposes, you'd probably want to have that on-site storage.
Right.
kind of keep it locked behind closed doors and have access to it at all times.
Okay. And you mentioned VMS. For those that might not know, like a business owner that might not know what a VMS is, what does that stand for?
So that is Video Management System.
Okay.
So that is basically the acronym for your server with the software on it. So that's
Okay.
all it is.
All right.
So the cons of on-site video management or a security system is maintenance. The biggest con is maintenance. So now you have this expensive server sitting in your closet, and you have to keep up with updates, firmware updates on the cameras, Windows updates. So if you don't have any in-house IT that is willing to take on another server, or they don't understand the surveillance portion of it, then it's going to be cumbersome, because you're going to have to get a larger maintenance contract with a company so that they can keep up with it. You're limited to that server. So what I mean is, let's say you have 30 cameras on your system with 20 terabytes, and you want to upgrade and add 10 more cameras. So, well, now you have to add more storage, and eventually you're going to run out of slots to put hard drives in, right?
Yeah.
And that means you have to buy another device. Things get a little more expensive. So that's about it for the cons of VMS, the main
Right.
cons of on-site video management. The pros of the cloud solution: a simplified integration. No server needed to be installed in the closet in your MDF, your main data frame, which is where all your other servers are housed or switches. This server is out in the cloud or on AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, a hosted cloud solution. So you don't have to worry about physically installing a large server, which could cost even more money putting it in your closet for space, for temperature, things of that nature.
I was about to mention that it could save a lot of space.
Right. Yeah. Electrical too. I mean, these servers don't take up a small amount of power, so every server you throw in there is an added cost to your electrical bill. So there's no management. Another pro to the cloud solution is there's no management needed. And what I mean by that is you don't have to do any updates to the server. You don't have to do any firmware updates to the cameras. That's all done in the back end, behind the scenes, by the cloud manufacturer that you choose.
And you don't have to worry about warranties too, right? Like
Right.
every
So,
7 years,
right.
5 years, you have to get a new
Exactly.
physical server, but now you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, exactly. So, 7 years down the line, you're adding more cameras. Well, they have new servers that they're putting these cameras on all the time that you don't have to buy. So you don't have to worry about that. Retention time. For the pro of retention time, it's easy to add days. So let's say you wanted 30 days on 15 cameras, and all of a sudden you need 60 days on those 15 cameras. Well, you just call the cloud company, call us, call the manufacturer, and say, hey, I need 30 more days. No problem. They'll add 30 more days of storage to your cloud solution. Whereas in the on-site, like we discussed earlier, if you run out of hard drive space, now you got to buy more hard drives and things of that nature.
So it seems like there's a lot more flexibility with cloud-based.
Right.
And however, it doesn't mean completely every situation you have to get rid of the on-premise.
Right. Yeah,
server.
not every
'Cause
situation.
you mentioned about the police and law enforcement and some of the other things out there.
Exactly.
So now, moving on with that, there's also, and this does kind of correlate with a cloud-based situation, is you hear out there about an open camera, video camera platform versus a closed camera platform.
Sure.
And there are some video cameras that are open and others that are closed. What does that mean?
So open versus closed architecture, we can call it. An open platform system or open architecture is an agnostic way of adding a new camera system or creating your camera solution. So basically what that means is you can choose many different manufacturers of cameras. You can mix and match them. And for the software portion of that camera system, it does not care what you add it to.
Okay.
So there's a solution, it's called OnViv profile, which is a standard across the surveillance system network, if you will, that basically states that every camera that is open must be OnViv compatible.
Okay.
Which means that if you have an open server software system, then the OnViv camera will be able to be added to that system. Closed is more of a limited feature. So if you have a closed architecture system, then that would mean you must pick the cameras that the manufacturer supplies. So there only might be a handful of them. You must use their server. And then in the end, those cameras cannot be added to any other system. So basically you're locked, you're closed in. And if you don't keep upgraded or updated with their SLA, their agreement or their licensing, then they can even shut you off and your systems become bricks, essentially.
So, wow. So would that also be the case if they saw another type of camera system or video management system or any type of new product, they would have to, I mean, they spent all this money and then, like you said, they're bricks. So, I mean, they're kind of handcuffed to them. And when there might be another solution that would help as your business grows, maybe on that. So it could really...
Right. And really, if you go with a closed solution and you like it day one, but let's say year one or year two, you don't like it, now it's a full rip and replace versus if you have an open solution and you like the cameras, but maybe you don't like the software, well, we can change the software and leave the cameras.
Okay.
So things of that nature. You're not handcuffed in the open architecture.
Okay. And a lot of places that I've seen, I'm not going to list the manufacturers, but there are some when they are talking with a prospect that they don't really mention that they're closed.
Right.
Yeah. And not saying they're doing anything deceptive. However, it's not something that they share that I found with those prospective clients.
Yeah, it's not one of the it's not one of the things that they like to tout and show off. It's kind of it's a negative for them. So it's in the fine print, right? Yeah. It's always in the fine print. So just be aware of closed architecture systems.
So what would be a good question that they would ask an IT video surveillance firm, and they're talking about cameras? What would be a good question for them to ask about this?
So, I mean, an easy question would be, hey, Mr. IT firm, I have 3-axis cameras hung up that I already like. Can I add these cameras to your solution?
Okay, yeah.
And if the answer is yes, then more than likely it's open. If it's no, then you know they're not gonna say no. What they're gonna say is, we have a better camera for you. You might like that one, but let's try one of ours and put that one up.
All right, so that way, if you're a business owner and you're trying to look at this video surveillance, that's a good question to ask. One of the purposes of this podcast is equipping you so that you make the right decisions for your business. So that's a very good point. All right, so why do you when sometimes it comes up when we're talking with our prospective clients about buying a camera system, licensing does come up.
Sure. And
so why do they have to buy a license? And is there different licensing options?
Yeah, so there's a few different licensing options. We'll start with the most traditional way that you'll see, which is a renewal of your licenses every year or every few years, depending on what agreement you go with. And basically what this license is it allows you, and this is for an on-prem, I'm gonna call this an on-prem. It allows you to be able to update your existing system, the software itself, to the newest version, which is a good thing, because if there's security breaches or things that they find in the version before, they want to get the newest version out to use so that you can upgrade and be secure in your system. It also allows you to reach tech support, so that if you have an issue with the camera system, that you're able to jump right on tech support and get an answer quickly. That's for an on-prem license, a recurring one, if you will. The on-prem license that isn't recurring, a one-time fee, that one's great, because you buy it once, you still get the updates. You might not get them as frequently because you're only paying for the one-time fee, but you're still getting the updates. You still get the tech support. You might not get in front of the line tech support as if you were using the recurring fee one, but that's another option depending on the manufacturer you choose.
Is there an advantage to choosing which one? I mean, because obviously there are clients that choose the one that is you pay it every year or 3 or 5 or whatever, and then there's others that just pay the one. Is it just,
it's more manufacturer to manufacturer. However, they lay out their licensing schedule. So
like, why would a client choose one over the other?
So I would suggest that a client would choose maybe the one-time license fee if it's maybe a smaller install. For example, maybe like a convenience store that needs 8 cameras, and they want to, the new server, the new cameras, they put it in, they don't have to worry about it or budget for it next year, things of that nature. Maybe their budget's a little tight, but they want the system to work. A reoccurring one would be maybe for a larger system, more complex, where you'd need maybe a few more features, and you'd want to kind of keep up to date with the latest security features, things of that nature.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So, last question.
Sure.
So, as you know, technology just is exploding with new products and new everything.
Right.
Every day almost.
Right.
And a big piece now that's come into play is AI, or artificial intelligence. What role does that play in video surveillance?
Right. So before AI has been discussed for years. So let's go back a little bit. So let's think of the traditional video management server before AI. Think of it as a glorified VCR, if you will. It plays video, live video. You can rewind the video. You can fast forward the video. You can record the video. And you can export the video.
VCR, you're really
VCR, that's right.
Wow,
yeah. So think of it as a glorified VCR, or DVD maybe, if you'd like. That system works fine. It's totally fine. It does what it needs to do. But with the introduction of AI, artificial intelligence, there's been many features and different types of artificial intelligent programs that could help minimize your searching time or be proactive in the situation, which I'll expand on. But for people who don't know, artificial intelligence, it's basically, think of it as a camera that's thinking on its own, if you will. So it makes real-time decisions of the data it sees. For example, it knows that there is a human in a picture, and it learns what a human looks like, so it can determine what a human is versus what an animal is. Okay. So it learns based on the data that it receives. So in the beginning of artificial intelligence, the first level, motion recording. So motion recording is basically if the camera has a scene and nothing's happening, it won't record. If something moves or pixels change, then the camera will record that video. Motion recording saves on storage, but that's a topic for another time. So now they have smart motion recording where you can say, hey, I want this motion to be recorded, but I only want it to record humans, and I don't care about a little bird or a little bee that flies by the camera and creates a false alarm or a false motion. So that's kind of the first step of the artificial intelligence.
So I've had clients or prospective clients mention how they used to get all tons of notifications
right.
that something's happening, and they check and it's a stinking squirrel running by it,
right,
or a strong gust of wind or a lightning bolt or something,
right.
And so I found that when I asked them how is their notification system, they're like, well, I used to have it, but I would always get notified and I just turned it off.
Right.
Well, then what happens is something real happens, they don't get the notification.
Yeah, it defeats the whole purpose.
Yeah,
right?
So that I could see why AI would help.
Correct. Yeah, and that's the AI is usually baked into the camera itself. So there's larger chips that are being put in cameras that are smarter, larger, more powerful. So the camera knows, hey, that's a person, that's a bird, and you can put it in the settings. I don't care about this bird or this pixel change. And then moving on with artificial intelligence, there's so many different things you can do with it. A couple of examples, like fence line or line crossing. You want to detect or you want to protect a perimeter. Let's say a bus company that has their buses protected with a fence. And I know catalytic converter stealing is a huge issue right now. Well, let's put a camera on the fence and shoot it down, draw a virtual line. So in the middle of the night, when someone jumps that fence or crosses that line, you're getting an alert on your phone or an email at 2 a.m. saying, man, someone crossed this line at 2 a.m. Now we can take appropriate steps to try to deter or be proactive and call the police instead of coming in at 8 a.m. and looking at the bus. and then, 10 catalytic converters are gone.
Yeah.
So being proactive with artificial intelligence, that's the key. So security guards, people sitting, watching video, is kind of a thing of the past. It happened more back then because it had to, but with artificial intelligence, the AI, you can be more proactive.
So you mentioned earlier about the shortening the investigation or the viewing. As you know, we work with a lot of law enforcement, and
right.
I've heard from the chiefs saying that, our detectives have spent hours just going through all this footage. Yeah. So the AI would help bring that down to save time, which in law enforcement, time is of essence, right?
Yes, correct. So, yeah. In that example, we hear it all the time, like you said. A detective gets a piece of evidence or a piece of information that says, last night somebody broke into my house. Well, if you have a camera on that, let's say you have a camera on down that block in that house, and then you get a little more information. Let's say another witness says, well, he was wearing a red hoodie. Okay. If you didn't have the AI in place, you'd have to go the night before and search from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. slowly. You can try to zoom a little faster and look for that red hoodie that you hope's a red hoodie, and find it. So how long would that take? Maybe a couple hours.
Wow.
With new artificial intelligence, now you pick a drop-down box. I am searching for, on this camera between 7 p.m. and 2 a.m., someone who's wearing a red shirt. If you knew the color pants, you could pick the pants and hit search. And within that scene, it'll search everything that it thinks is a red shirt or a red hoodie. Now, what other information I've received from detectives and police departments is you don't always get the right information. Maybe that red shirt was actually purple, things of that nature. So what the AI does is it searches for red, but it'll show different shades. It'll show blacks, it'll show purples, and it gives you maybe some false alarms that you don't need. But sometimes those searches that it finds, well, that might be your perpetrator. So
putting a case together makes it a lot easier,
right,
and saves them time, which they could be actually doing what they do best by investigating, being out in the community and helping.
Right. So now that let's say there's only 3 people with a red shirt and you search, you just found your perpetrator in about 5 minutes compared to 2 hours.
Wow.
So
that's game changing there.
Yeah.
Now it's using the term video surveillance that lends itself to always investigation, bad things happening or keeping bad things from happening, but also with this AI, it can be used for improving customer experience. So,
sure.
If you have a cash register and a retail place and you have a bunch of people, how can that help with notifying, or how would you do that, like making sure that you're not being understaffed or such?
Sure. So a couple of different examples in more of the retail industry. You can use AI, just how you said. So let's say there's 4 people in line waiting to check out and there's only 1 cashier. Well, you can tell that camera that's looking at the line to say, hey, if there's more than 3 people there, I need to send an alert to the manager to say, get me another cashier up there so that we speed up the process. You can also tap into your POS, point of sale system, your computer that's taking excuse me, all the information for the items that are bought, and you can compare it directly with how much money's in or how much money's out. So for example, if you have a friend who's working at the cash register and you buy 5 Slurpees, but she only charges you for 1, well, you can set up through the POS to say, hey, she only hit 1 Slurpee, but there was 5 on that table. So now you can do some what do they call it? Disaster management or recovery, things of that nature. Employee theft. I guess that's employee theft, if you will, really. So
loss prevention.
Loss prevention. Thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Wow, that's incredible. And of course, we can talk forever on this. Right. There's various ways that you can utilize.
Slip and falls.
Yeah,
commercial
fraudulence. That's like one of my, because I have a client that they were being sued for these slip and falls, and so based on what we can offer, they chose a system to help prevent all that. And we can go on that. And so I just Boone, thank you very much for joining us on this episode of Cyber Connect, and bring your understanding, expertise, insight when it comes to video surveillance. It's really a cool, I love talking about it. I love actually seeing it in working for that. So.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I live and breathe surveillance cameras and things of that nature, so I'm here to help in any way.
Yeah. If you'd like to learn more about our video surveillance design solutions, or you'd like to schedule a meeting to have, we do like a video surveillance assessment to make sure that everything is covered that it should be doing, and the angles are right, and the retention is right, the amount of days and alerts and all that. And that would be complimentary. If you'd like to have a conversation and set something up like that, please call me at 630-317-5657, or you can email me at rbassett@currenttech.net. You can also enjoy my weekly technology videos by following me on LinkedIn and YouTube at #ITYouCanThriveOn. As I say goodbye, I want to thank our producer, Brennan Lembrecht, and our sponsor, Current Technologies. Until next episode, be safe.